Hey there, so we're going to go through the mounting guide for how to mount a Pixelcade. In this case, these are P2.5 panels. So these are good for pinball displays, for example. So we're going to end up ultimately with something like this. Now in this video, I'm actually going to, instead of a wood mount, I'm actually going to do an acrylic mount. And if it depends on your install, but basically if in your install, this part is going to be hidden, so you're not going to see the wood piece. Then just go with wood because it's cheaper. But if it's not, then go with black because the black will blend in better with the LEDs. So let's get started. First thing I recommend you do is get this cheat sheet. The instructions are a little tricky. You got to basically follow everything in the right order. So download this cheat sheet from the internet off our website. That'll save you a lot of time. Okay. So let's take a look at all of our parts. So we got a Pixel Maker's kit, got cables, got power supply, ribbon cables, got a bunch of mounting hardware. Raspberry Pi, this is optional. If you're doing pinball, you're probably not going to do the Pi, but we'll just mount it anyway. So basically we have 3 laser cut pieces. So this is the main mount, and this is a mount for the Pixel board, which is in the kit. This is a mount for the Pi, which is optional, but we'll just go ahead and do it. And then you've got your P2.5 panels. All right, so let's get started. So first thing we want to do, let's start with our Pixel board mount. And you'll notice that there are holes on the outside and holes on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the holes on the outside. I'm just going to take our nylon screws and mount them like so. Just go up from the bottom. And we're going to take a little hex nut and just attach it right there. All right, so that is step 1. Now we're going to do the same thing on the Pi. So again, go into our cheat sheet. We want to do the outside holes on the Pi, not the inside holes, so the outside. So same thing. Okay, so we got both these boards done, so let's set those aside. Step 2 is optional, but if you want to hang this on the wall, then we have a couple mounting hook holes. If you're not going to hang it on the wall, this is going to go into a pinball machine or an arcade machine, then just skip this step. And so these are actually special hanging hooks. They've got a little indent here, so they stretch out a little bit. If you want those, you can order those separately from us or get them at any hardware store. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for this hole right here and this hole right here. And for this, let's go ahead and use a metal screw just to have something more sturdy. Grab a screw here. That should work. And I'm going to do a washer as well. And we'll do a metal screw here. All right, so we've got our hanging hooks installed. And by the way, all the work we're going to do initially, if you look on the panel, it says mount LED panels on other side. So the LED panels are going to go on the back side here. Just make sure you don't mount them on this side. That's very important. Okay, so back to our instructions. Next step is zip ties. So we've got 2 zip ties. These are just going to help you manage the attach the cables. So zip tie is just going to go like this. Okay, that's one zip tie. Second zip tie is going to go here. Okay, so those are our zip ties. Next, we're going to mount the inside screws for the Pixel board and the Pi board. So basically, on the Pixel board, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 inside screws. Same with the Pi. So let's do that right now. And same as before, we're going to take one of these nylon screws, go through the bottom, and oops, that was the wrong one. That's the right one. Same thing as before. And let's just make sure they're nice and tight. Okay, so let's do the same thing for the Pi. So the Pi screws, again, are going to be these inside 4 screws right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see it's kind of hard to see, but it says Pi right there. So same thing. All right, so we got our inside mounts for both boards. So that was step 4. Now we're going to step 5, and we're going to mount our LED panels. So I'm going to sit down for this one. So here are our LED panels. Make sure the camera's still good, yeah. And okay, so these LED panels are going to mount, so let's flip them over. Now, very important, when you're mounting these, make sure the arrow is pointing up. You don't want the arrow pointing down. Got to have the arrow pointing up right there. So let's make sure both of them are, that one was down. Okay, so both of them are pointing up. And we can do the first one over here. And there's a little notch. If you look at these panels, see there's a little notch right there that's sticking out. That's actually going to line up to one of the holes. That kind of makes it easier for you. So if you line up that little notch there we go. And so now you can see all the holes should line up perfectly. So let's do this one first. These you don't have to put in super tight, just enough. Okay, so that was one LED panel. These LED panels are pretty fragile, so I've seen cases where if you kind of knock one of these LEDs, it can break off, so you really do want to be careful there. So I think what we'll do for this next round, we'll just take some softer, just take some good padding or something. We'll use this guy right here. Okay, so let's do LED panel number 2. Make sure the arrow is up. Okay, that's lined up. Okay, so you see the holes there are all nice and lined up. Perfect. All right, so now step 6, we're going to take one of these ribbon cables and attach it from panel number 1 to panel number 2. And we need to do this now because once we mount the boards, we're not going to be able to get to this anymore. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see here, out this way. Okay, we can just kind of use the zip ties to make that more sturdy later. And then the other thing we should do is we should mount our power cable. So this is a custom power cable that we make. And so these 2 Molex connectors are going to go to the power on each of the panels. And again, we want to do this now because we're not going to be able to get to these connectors once the boards are mounted. So let's do it now. Okay, so I got a power mounted. All right, that was step 6. Let's do step 7. Step 7, we're actually going to attach the board mounts. So let's start with the Pixel board first. So the Pixel board is in the middle, and then we want to orient it like this. So basically the USB is pointing this way. So see the USB right here, so orient it like so. And we're just going to slide it on there. And this can be a little tricky to attach, so you need to finagle it in there. Okay. And then we're going to attach the board with the same hex nuts. And again, you know, if you're not doing the Pi, it doesn't hurt to mount this board in case you change your mind later. So I would do it even if you're not doing a Pi, just mount it. You know, it's not going to harm anything. You can always change later. So again, we're going to find those 4 inside ones. There we go. Same thing. Okay, so we got the boards mounted, and you kind of look on the underside, we got a little spacing there, which is good. We need that. Now we're going to actually mount the boards. So let's take our Pixel Maker's Kit, do this one first. Take out the board. There is also an SD card, so might as well do that now. Okay, so let's take our SD card. Okay, here's our board. Want to make sure too that on the board, this toggle switch is pointing towards USB. Now, if you're doing a desktop installation, you're going to use an Android phone to control this, then put that to BT for Bluetooth, and you're going to plug in the Bluetooth dongle. But if this is going to be like a MAME or a pinball installation, then we're going to plug in a USB cable, so we want to point this to USB. Okay? And then it's just a matter of mounting it. Okay. And so let's look at our board. See, this says USB. So the orientation is we want USB, which is right here, pointing that way. So now we're just going to mount the board. And it's going to mount on these outside screws. And again, a little tricky. You just got to get it in there. That actually looks pretty good. And same thing. Let's attach it with these hex nuts. And again, it's already attached pretty good, so you don't need to. Okay, good. Okay, so while you're here on your Pixel board, on your kit, you would have noticed one of these guys. So this is just a little shunt for the on-off switch. So we're gonna pop it in right there. Okay, That guy is in. So now we've got our Pixel board mounted. Great. So now let's do the Raspberry Pi. And again, this is optional. So if you're not doing a Pi, you can skip this step. And so with the Pi, the orientation is look for the HDMI label, and the HDMI connectors here is going to point towards that label. So same thing, let's just plop this guy on here. Now on the Pi, this one is going to be a little harder to go in because the screws on the Pi are slightly smaller, so you're going to need to finagle that one in for sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Again, the Pi uses slightly smaller holes, so you just gotta finagle that one in. And same thing, we're gonna do our thing here. There's enough space actually where you can still get to your SD card, so if you don't have your SD card in at this time, that's okay. You can get to it later because we got a little gap for you. Okay, so we got our Pi mounted, got Pixel mounted, we got our panels mounted. Now going to step 8, the ribbon cable from the Pixel board here to panel number 1. So we'll take our ribbon cable, and plug that guy in here. Okay. Now on to step 9, secure cables with zip ties. Actually, I'm going to do that a little bit later, so let's come back to that because I want to make sure I got all everything here. And then this is optional, but if this is going to go, for example, hang on your wall, then optionally you could attach another little piece like this on the front, like so, just have it be a little bit of a nicer look. And to do that, and you can order these from us if you don't have them, but there's these hex stands. So let's get 4 of these guys. And then if you're not doing the hex stand, you can use these screws to mount them for your installation. Okay, so those are our hex stands, and then now we can take this front piece here and just attach it with this guy. I like these little thumb screws. They have kind of a nicer look to them than a Phillips, but that's totally up to you. Okay, so now the moment of truth. Everything is wired up. We got our SD card in here. This is on USB. We're going to power it up and see what happens. So if this works, we should see a test image. Depending on which SD card image you have, it should say 1942. So, okay, so sorry, I forgot one thing. So on the power cable, this DC jack needs to plug into the board. So that is going to plug in here. And a little bit of a tight fit there. Okay, we got it. And then lastly, this guy, which is the female DC jack, is going to plug into your power brick, the male end. So here is our power brick. This is a 5-volt, 10-amp power brick. Plug this guy in here, and with any luck, we should see a test image that says 1942 or 1941. Sorry. There we go. That's it. So that is the install for a P2.5 Pixelcade kit, And if you don't want to do all of that stuff, we sell these assembled as well, so you can just order it assembled also. That's totally up to you. But if you're a DIYer like myself, you've got access to a laser cutter or a friend with a laser cutter, cut this stuff yourself and have at it. It's not that bad.